Welcome to Season 2 of Red Sox Digest, the only show where pain, sarcasm, and false hope collide nightly, like a Masataka Yoshida ground out to second. We break down every loss, every meltdown, and the occasional win, with sarcasm, facts, and no front office spin. Subscribe today at RedSoxDigest.com, or keep wondering how a wildcard team spent an entire offseason avoiding power hitters. And now, here's the crew at Red Sox Digest.
Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. I am your host tonight, Jim Delfino. And folks, opening day is here, which means hope is alive, expectations are irrational, and I am again emotionally investing in a baseball team like Trevor Story invests in ground balls to the left side. Just pure commitment to bad decisions early, and then one big moment that keeps you coming back like an idiot. Joining me tonight is Nick Face. Nick, who just watched a 3-0 win and is still furious. This guy is arguing with the TV like the Reds personally disrespected his bloodline. He's got 14 tweets drafted about why that second inning double play was actually a sign of organizational failure. Also joining us tonight is Thayer Doyle. Thayer, who somehow turned a shutout win into a lecture on situational hitting. He's sitting there like, yeah, great win, but what about that fly out in the fourth? Finally, joining us tonight is John Martinello. John, who treats opening day like it's Christmas morning, but instead of presents, it's just 9 innings of emotional damage waiting to happen. This guy shows up optimistic every year like the Red Sox haven't hurt him before. Absolute goldfish memory. Let's get into it. Your Boston Red Sox are now 1-0. Tied for first place, undefeated, never losing again. Book the parade. Final score 3-0. And let's not lie, this game was boring for 6 innings. This offense came out like they just met each other in the parking lot. Roman Anthony hits. Everyone else, we'll circle back. We had double plays. We had weak grounders. Trevor Story doing cardio between first and the dugout. At one point, I thought the highlight of the game was going to be a routine fly ball. Then we had the 7th inning, and boom. Marcelo Mayer coming off a bench and immediately rips a double like, yeah, I should probably be playing. Love that. The kid had more impact in one swing than half the lineup all night. Then Ceddanne Rafaela, RBI single, 1-0 Red Sox. Finally, signs of life. Meanwhile, everything goes back to Garrett Crochet. This dude was dealing. Bases loaded in the 6th, and he just shuts the door like he's late for dinner. No panic, no nonsense, just straight up dominance. That was the game right there. Bullpen, filthy. Slayton, Whitlock, and then Chapman comes in throwing absolute smoke like he found a time machine. 3 quick outs and good night. Top of the 9th, insurance runs. Thank God, because we all know how this goes. Trevor Story, yes. Trevor Story RBI single. It happened. I saw it. I don't believe it, but it happened. Then Duran adds another RBI, 3-0, and we can all breathe like it's normal human beings again. So, with that being said, it's time for Nick Face's Word of the Day.
And now it's time for Nick Face's Word of the Day!
Shove up your blank. That's how Crochet was today. It's great to have a guy that's your ace that can absolutely take over a game, put the team on his back, get the job done, and deliver, especially in the biggest of moments. Oh, was that 6th inning? On the edge of your seat, bases loaded. What's he going to do? Strikeout. Sit down, shut up, Cincinnati Reds, they're done. And it was great to see this happen for him because it was a rough spring. I know he was tinkering and making adjustments and trying to just stay competitive out on the mound. But, boy, he didn't miss a beat from what we saw last season. Absolute domination here today. Was it his best? Maybe not. But if that's not his best, hey, we'll take it. And the Red Sox will happily tip their cap to him, and they turn it right over to the bullpen. So we have a chat that goes back and forth, so that way we're talking and interacting when the game's going on. And I was pretty happy with the 6 innings. I know some people may have said, oh, maybe he could have went out there at least to start the 7th. I have to tell you, because of the pressure situation that 6th inning was and the job that he did in striking out the final 2 guys right there, I was perfectly fine with Crochet. Take the shower, take the walk. He did his job. I think I would have probably been more, I don't want to say mad, but more questioning why he would go back out there for the 7th. So job well done. Gets us off in the win column to start the season. Nothing better than a win to start the season off. That is something that I love the most. Sometimes over the years, we have not been lucky enough or fortunate enough to get the win on opening day, but it definitely alleviates a little bit of that pressure going into the second game of the season and kind of building some momentum. And I think the biggest thing that this team needs right here is that momentum. I think specifically our offense, and I know we're going to be talking about that probably a good amount here on this show, but from our conversations we were all having here last night, I don't think any of us had any questions whatsoever on the pitching staff side. That's our strength. That strength will shine throughout the season. I am not nervous about starting pitching or really even relief. I'm pretty happy with even the depth that we have there too. It's going to come down to the offense, and the Roman Anthony show was the Roman Anthony show. I want to just read a stat really quick to you guys because I think it's pretty awesome on these on this stat that came from I forget where it came from. JP Long, I think, who does Red Sox notes, but Roman Anthony became only one of 4 players in baseball history to reach base 4 times on opening day at the age of 21 or younger. He joins the company of Joe Mauer, which was in 2004, Ken Griffey Jr. in 1990, Delino DeShields in 1990 as well. In 1989, it was Robbie Alomar, and in 1975, the late Gary Carter. So that's pretty awesome there. Now, in Red Sox history, there is another note. A Red Sox with 3+ hits on opening day at the age of 21 or younger. Do you guys know the other 2 guys? I'll throw it to all of you. We'll make this a little trivia, little game show option here this evening. Who are the other 2 Red Sox players that are in company with Roman Anthony now? No cheating.
Dwight Evans?
No.
I'd answer, but I have the tweet up.
Under 21, Tony C.
There you go. There's one. Dead giveaway on that one.
Devers?
And then are you guys in the camp of Dustin Pedroia or another guy as your best second baseman of all time? Because I just gave it away. This goes back to 1937.
Bobby Dorr, huh?
Bobby
Dorr and Tony C. So again, a Red Sox player with 3+ hits on opening day at the age of 21 or younger. Bobby Dorr, 1937. Tony Canigliaro in 1965. Roman Anthony in 2026. And for the rest of the Major League Baseball, Roman Anthony joined 5 other players. So he's now the 6th player to have reached base 4+ times, thanks to the ABS system. I'm sure we'll talk about that as well. But again, it's Joe Mauer in 2004, Ken Griffey Jr. in 1990, also in 1990, Delino DeShields, Robbie Alomar in 89, and Gary Carter in 75. That's pretty damn impressive, Mr. Roman Anthony. Those names that are on those lists are quite impressive. So there you go on opening day. Thank you, Roman. And
Nick, I got to say, 4 times on base doesn't seem all that, thrilling. Anybody can do it, including your boy Hamilton. So I wouldn't be going too crazy about
today
on base on opening day
today. Yeah, that's true.
One of the reasons
4 times.
one of the reasons why I answered Dwight Evans, because I think if memory serves me right, he's the last Red Sox outfielder to make his debut. Technically, he's not his debut, but be the starting outfielder at 21 years of age. I don't know if Anthony was younger or Evans was younger, but they were both 21 years of age. So it's pretty elite.
Dwight Evans was younger, 21
Was he?
days, 154, 21 years, 154 days. Roman Anthony, 21 for his years, 317 days. So it's about 100-ish or so days.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
200-ish days. Yeah, 200-ish days. I know math.
So Nick's word of the day is brought to you by the Cincinnati Reds Replay Challenge Department. Still reviewing that Jaron Duran single from the first inning. Cincinnati Reds replay, because if you stare at it long enough, I mean, maybe it changes. That being said, we're moving on, and we're going to do the Martinello Minute.
And now, the part they don't want said out loud. No spreadsheets or corporate spin, just the truth, raw and impatient. This is the Martinello Minute.
So Nick pointed out a couple Roman Anthony stats that are really eye-popping, especially on day one of the season, but he didn't get to them all, so I'll get to those. But again, yesterday was a talking point where we were asking if Roman Anthony was all hype or if he was the real deal. So Nick brought up a couple statistics, and I'll give you a couple more. He's the youngest Red Sox player ever to reach base in the first at-bat of the season. He hit that ball 112 miles an hour right back up the middle. He's the third youngest player with 3+ hits and the second youngest player to reach base 4+ times in an opening day. And to top things off, he's the 14th 21-year-old ever to reach base 4 times on opening day. 9 of those first 13 are in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, kid's the real deal if you weren't able to put that together yet. Another talking point from yesterday was Marcelo Meyer. Alex Cora had the audacity to start Isaiah Kiner, strikeout, roll me over, Falefa over, the California cool kid Meyer. 0-0 in the 7th inning.
My boy.
0-0 in the 7th inning. Meyer rips a double and follows it up with a perfectly executed double pump. Didn't catch the flag with the third pump, so that's good. And then Cedane Rafaela, who was last year 34% driving guys in with less than 2 outs. His first opportunity this year, gets the job done. He drives in Meyer. Red Sox take a 1-0 lead. And then obviously we get to the 9th inning where it's Roman Anthony up, 1 guy on base, 2 outs. Umpire calls strike 3, and we get the ABS challenge. Thank God for the ABS. It's life-changing. And then Roman and Marcelo Meyer combined for 5 hits, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, and 3 runs scored. And then all about the hitting, it was really Garrett Crochet that stole the day. 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, no runs, 8 strikeouts. Nick pointed it out in the 6th inning. That's when I really felt like baseball was back. My heart started pumping. And then Garrett Crochet strikes out Eugenio Suarez and then strikes out, I think it was Ty Stevenson or Spencer Steer, one of them two. And that's really when the season started for me. And then 3 years in a row, Red Sox went on opening day. So nothing to complain about from my end.
Yeah, really good with the way that this game came together. We'll talk about it as we go along because, I mean, it was very textbook. Martinello Minute is brought to you by the Red Sox first innings offense. Red Sox first inning offense now featuring absolutely nothing. It's like going to a restaurant, ordering a steak, and they bring you an empty plate and say, don't worry, dessert's coming in the 7th. And now we're going to go with the 3rd strike.
And now it's time for the 3rd strike with Thayer.
All right, I am going to go in a little different direction, and I'm going to extend a little praise to Mr. Alex Cora, who we've sort of been all over a lot over the offseason about him getting all over Mayer and sort of treating him this way and saying this and saying that. And maybe this is a young man who responds to sort of the whip as opposed to the carrot. He's the kind of guy that maybe Mayer, Cora knows that he's not a guy that I'm going to kind of pat on the back and give praise to. He's the kind of guy who I have to kick in the rear end to get him to do something. And I have to give him credit, at least for now. He sat him on opening day. He came out and turned the game around. And I also have to give him credit for making that decision to go, to the bullpen in the 7th inning. Some people would have said, oh, he's my ace, I'm going to roll with him. I think he did the right thing. Give these guys the opportunity, Slayton, to step up and get a role. Whitlock, the last time we saw him as a Red Sox, he kind of blew the game. So, and also the last time we saw him in the WBC, granted he pitched in a game he probably shouldn't have been in. He was lacking some confidence, so he went right back to the well, got the guys he needed to get in there, and I think this was a good start, not only from the winning standpoint, but I think from the mental standpoint for Cora and the guys.
The third strike with Thayer is brought to you by Bases Loaded Anxiety. Bases Loaded Anxiety brought to you by Garrett Crochet, who said, "Not today, Satan," and struck everybody out like he was late for a dentist appointment. Bases Loaded Anxiety, because every Red Sox fan aged 7 years in the 6th inning. So I want to start bringing up today's talking points. Obviously, Nick started off with it strongly. Garrett Crochet was him. Just a textbook win all around for the pitching staff. I mean, if you had to kind of just script it, and I put a tweet out on this is how you'd want a game like this to go. You'd want to have your starter go at least 6 innings and then bring it up to your best 3 possible relievers in Slayton, Whitlock, and Chapman. And that's exactly what you witnessed here today. I mean, it couldn't have gone any smoother as it relates to, the pitching rotation, the pitching staff, and, the starters and the relievers. You'd love to see this every night, but this is the way we hope this season's going to go. You've got a really good, deep starting rotation in 2026, and if this is any sign of what's to come, I think we're going to all be pretty pleased with that. Thayer, I'll start with you on this. What was your thoughts on Crochet's start and obviously the bullpen and what you saw?
I liked the first inning. The fact he came out, got people out on 4 pitches. I like the democratic style of baseball, put the ball in play and make things happen. I like the 8 strikeouts. The key to Crochet, and this is what I want to see him continue to do, is to take the old Verlander approach where you don't need to give it 100 miles an hour all the time. You have that in your store when you need it. And we saw that today. There were issues. There were men on 2nd and 3rd. He had less than, and he needed to strike out, and he went and got it. Those are when we need him to really do it. And I think that's what separates him from, other pitchers in baseball, is he has the ability to bear down and go get it and throw strikes. That's really, 6 innings, 80 pitches on opening day is really what is the most impressive aspect to this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I also want you to comment a little bit about Slayton, Justin Slayton. He kind of gave us all a little bit of some heart palpitation there. 17 pitches, 10 for strikes. You look at the box score and you say 2 strikeouts. It was good, but I think if you're watching that game, you were a little bit nerve-wracked. Is it just some rust, or is there a question of concern there?
Yeah, I mean, first outing of the year, most people are going to have a little bit of I'd say the jitters. But, after, Slayton comes in, he walks the first batter of the inning, and then he retires 3 in a row. He struck out 2 of them. Andrew Bailey immediately after the walk went out there, talked to him, gave him a breather, probably just gave him the scouting report on who was up next. And after that, he started shoving. He threw 3 of his sweepers in the inning, got whiffs on 2 of them. So, just first outing of the year. But to go back to what Thayer was saying, he nailed it. Garrett Crochet doesn't need to pump the 100 miles an hour until he needs to. And he showed it today. Was averaging about 96.5, and then in the 6th inning, threw his hardest pitch of the day at 98.3 when he needed to get out of a jam, needed to get out of the scenario where if you give up a hit, the Reds probably win the game. So Garrett Crochet bears down when he needs to. He understands that as an ace. He has all the qualities that you look for, and we're lucky to have him.
Nick, similar question. The one thing that I did want to bring up, Garrett Crochet had 8 strikeouts in 6 innings. Slayton, 2 strikeouts. Garrett Whitlock, 2 strikeouts. Aroldis Chapman didn't strike anybody out. Is there a cause for concern there? I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, I'm terribly concerned. I think the season's over. Just how I feel. All in all, I think we need to make sure that we remember that spring training is spring training. Some of these guys who are professionals are just out there to kind of get their feet wet, to get ready for the season. What I loved, what I saw with Crochet today, is when the going got tough, specifically that 6th inning, the heat came. The location was dead on. He has this in his arsenal to use, much like you said there, when he needs it. And when it's on, the rest of the league better watch out. And that's what he did today. That's what a true ace is. That's like what Pedro was back when Pedro was with the Sox. You knew Pedro could give you that 97, 98 whenever he could in his prime and blow the competition right away. That's the special part here on Crochet, is the staying healthy, making sure that, like today, 80 pitches over 6 innings couldn't have been scripted any better. That would be the most ideal scenario for anybody who's on a scouting report or anything like that would want for their ace pitcher to have. He threw 20 less pitches than you want to get to at that 100 mark and was able to get out of Dodge by having no runs scored on him, and a beautiful first start of the season. Tremendous. On the Slayton front, I do want to make sure I am still not in the circle of trust with Justin Slayton. It's the first game of the season. I'm not sounding the alarm bells, but the big thing here on Slayton for me has always been health and control. Justin Slayton has got to figure out a better way of staying in control when he comes into pitch, because I always feel he's a nibbler. And no, I don't mean like nibbling on Cheez-Its. I mean nibbling on the strike zone. And we saw the ABS system come back and hurt him for that first batter that he faced. Forgive me, do any of you remember who that first guy was? But I remember it was a walk, and I'm already saying to myself, control, control, control. This is the thing that we have to make sure that Justin Slayton fixes this season.
Yeah, especially too with his injury last year. I think, we could have definitely used him, in those innings last year. We had quite a loss with him for quite a number of weeks as a result, And so that's why, I said it on last night's show too. I said he's going to be a really key member of this bullpen, because you need to have that guy that's going to just be a stopper. I mean, you really need a stopper in every inning. And I said this, even during the offseason. Anybody that is old enough to remember the 1990 Cincinnati Reds, you had the best 3 guys in that bullpen, the Nasty Boys, with Norm Charlton, Randy Myers, and Rob Dibble. And when that team went into the 7th inning, the game was over. You just were not hitting those 3 guys, and they were brought out time and time and time again. And it was just one of the main reasons why they won the World Series that year. So it'll be interesting to see if the Red Sox can harness some of that type of being and have that dominant 7, 8, and 9, so that not only that, but starters like Crochet can kind of, maybe take the foot off the gas a little bit and say, listen, I just got to go 6. My job's done. This game's over. And Cora can be very confident in that as well by saying, I just need you for one more inning. Air it out one more inning. Give me the 6, and, we're done. Whether it be, Bayo or it be Suarez or any of these guys. It's a good feeling having that lockdown end of the bullpen when you're a starting pitcher. And the same thing, too, with your offense. If they fail, but you've got the lead, you feel confident with those guys coming in.
The other thing I want to say, hold on one sec before we wrap. The other biggest thing that came about was, again, Garrett Whitlock in that 8th.
Yeah.
The last times that we've seen him, it was a little shaky. WBC and the final game of the season when we lost. Granted, it really wasn't his fault. It was just a matter of he threw too many pitches. That was just the case of the matter from it. But to see him strike out Gino Suarez was just true revenge. And that was just awesome for him to see. Huge confidence boost to lead into the first game of the season. That was exactly what you had hoped for, and he did it. So great job for Garrett Whitlock on that.
Next topic I want to talk about is Marcelo Mayer. He needs to play now. I mean, I think this was pretty clear after today's game. I just, I put a tweet out. I'm like, this lineup was ridiculous because I didn't like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa in that game. And, I got beat up on it because people don't understand my sarcasm on Twitter. But that's besides the point. The bottom line is that he is your number 4 overall pick, your first round pick, highest ever as the Red Sox have ever picked. How can he get better if you're going to platoon the kid? He's got to get at bats against left-handers. There, I'll start with you.
I think he's in a good place. I think the key to this, and like I said earlier, is that they're putting the pressure on him. I think he's going to be all right. I think he's going to have that opportunity to get the job done. Ultimately, I think today is going to go a long way. We always used to talk about, we joked about the becoming a true Yankee, when those guys would come over, when Giambi would come over and hit the big home run, and they're now a Yankee. It just takes that moment. I think today might have been his moment to Anthony was awesome today, but really Mayer overshadowed him with his at-bats, and he came in and he turned the game around. So, maybe this might be the opportunity where, hey, here we go.
John, your thoughts on Mayer, his production today, and what you want to see moving forward?
I mean, what I want to see moving forward is I want to see him in the lineup every single day. And as I pointed out yesterday, the Red Sox are scheduled to face a lot of righties over the first 3 weeks of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So Meyer's going to get his opportunity. I can't imagine, unless, maybe one day off just to get some rest. But he's going to have a lot of opportunity over the next couple of weeks. And he showed today, spent 6 innings on the bench, immediately comes in, second pitch he sees, ropes a double to the left center gap. So, a lot of the discussion over spring training was, is he mature enough? Is he ready for a 162 game season? Is he ready to play with the big boys? And, he proved it really quickly to all of us outside of the celebration. So Myers should be playing second base every single day, even if there's a lefty in the lineup. As Thayer said, you got to let the kid figure it out. He's the, highest pick ever from the Red Sox. If you have this belief in him that made you not trade him for Ketel Marte, you got to have him in the lineup against these lefties. You got to have him in the lineup every single day. And so far, he's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the guy's got, if you're going to give Willie or Abreu a shot against left-handers, you have to do the same thing with Mayer. I mean, it's the only way you're going to build up his confidence too, is by getting him in those games against left-handers. And like you said, John, it's known that you're going to face more right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching in all of baseball. That goes without saying. The problem is that you got to get those opportunities as well. Do I hate Isaiah Kiner-Falefa? No, I don't hate him. But, it irks me when he's going to get an opening day start over your prized possession in Marcelo Mayer. I don't go with that philosophy. That just tells me that you're playing percentages, you're playing lefty and righty matchups, and you're doing that on opening day. Look, if you want to do that on the 7th or 8th game of the year and you want to spell Story for a game, or you want to have him DH and put Falefa at short, or Mayer at short and Falefa at second for a game, that's fine down the road. But opening day, I got problems with that. Nick, your thoughts?
I just want to release Falafel House now. I mean, it's so dumb. We don't need him. It's $6 million. It's a complete waste. It's a waste of a roster spot. It was a waste of a signing because what did we do? A week after, we signed Caleb Durbin, who in my opinion is a far superior player than Waffle House will ever be. Put some syrup on him.
Yeah, exactly. Moving right along.
I didn't give my Marcelo Meyer take.
All right.
Come on. All right. Yes, he should have been in the starting lineup. But what's interesting here, Jim, you were a proponent for this, and so was I before the season started. I think about a month ago when we did our pod, we said, don't be surprised if Marcelo Meyer starts the season in Worcester. I want to expand upon that and just say, this has nothing to do with being wrong. What we were aiming for here is that if he wasn't going to play every day, we wanted him to get the reps and play down there. Mm-hmm. So to all of our point here, he needs to play every day. The only way you're going to develop and the only way you're going to get better is by getting into the lineup by hitting righties and lefties. He's the highest draft pick that we've had in history. Play the guy. I was really ticked when I saw that lineup this morning, and I go, are you kidding me? Put him in. It shouldn't matter if you're drafted that high and you have this much potential and this great of a ceiling to be sitting on the pine when Isaiah Conner-Falefa is your starting second baseman today. It's absolutely ridiculous, and this better not be the situation that we're leading into against left-handed pitching for this season, because I'm not going to make it through this season if that's what's going to happen. I can't do it. I also will go out on a bold prediction here with Marcelo Meyer, because I do think that so long as he plays and he establishes himself, don't be surprised to see a little position change upcoming, because I personally don't think Story's going to have a great season. And I would love to see Marcelo Meyer as the shortstop. I know he's of the future, but could it be for now in this season? Time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting take. I think the only time that would happen is if you really see
the Story goes out too.
If you see if he gets injured, that's number one. Number two, if you start seeing deficiencies with Story, if the range is
because he broke down a little bit last season.
If the range is clearly a problem, if the throw accuracy is clearly a problem, if you start noticing some, significant deficiencies with him, then, maybe Cora will be able to tell him, look, we're going to make a move and we're going to put you back at second, which I thought should have been done. And I think most of us on the podcast here believe that should have been done, in the thought process that they didn't go out and get an impact second baseman. And to your point, Nick, what you were talking about earlier about Mayer being in the minors, I was a proponent for that, providing they wound up going and getting Marte if he wasn't involved in that trade, or they signed Bichette off the free agent list, because I figured if you were going to get an impact second baseman, he didn't have a place to play, maybe third, but at that point Bregman was still a name. So I'm not upset he's here. I'm upset that he didn't start today. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, I want him to play. I think all of us do. Play the guy.
Yep. Moving right along, I want to talk about probably the one thing that won the game for the Red Sox today. And who knows, it could make us lose a game in the future. But I think all of us want to kind of touch in on the ABS system. And so far, there was a statistic before the Red Sox game started. So I don't know what the numbers are right now, but let me take you to about 3:30, 3:45 this afternoon. The statistic that I read was that 53.1% of challenged calls were overturned. That's an alarming amount. I know it's opening day. I know umpires are fresh and, they're not into their bag yet, but I just thought that was an overwhelming number of overturned calls. 53.1% of overturned calls that were challenged. So something to look at. Nick, I'll start with you on that thought. And then obviously the biggest thing here was the Roman Anthony challenge.
I think this is one of the biggest changes that we have seen outside of the extra innings rule. I really do. Even with the pitch clock and all that, the pitch clock to me is just thrown out the window compared to what this is. This could be game changing. And what we did see with that is specifically insurance for the Red Sox, because we were sitting at 1-0, and then Roman Anthony was up. It was a very close 3-2 pitch, and the umpire called strike 3. Roman's like, hell no, we're going to challenge that. And, it was a matter of just a little bit, but it shows that the human element of an umpire is getting tested. And the human element of an umpire, at least from this statistic, has been wrong. And it impacts the game significantly. If they can get the calls right, I'm cool with it. But I think with the whole challenge system that I think that all of us here don't love is that ticky-tack element of the game. Case in point, when it's a stolen base and you're like a minuscule over it, and you slide, a little bit short or a little bit off and a little bit, that kind of thing ticks me off beyond belief. Because I think there should be a rule where you have a little like inch or so leeway, especially if you're sliding and trying to get yourself back into motion to stand up. I think that's where it gets ridiculous for me. But when it comes to balls and strikes, I mean, as a hitter back when I was in baseball, it drove me crazy when an umpire got something, wrong when I knew 100% it was right. I remember me having a tirade incident where I didn't get thrown out or anything, but I remember I was pissed. And then I came up the next at bat and I had the game winner. But it infuriated me because it can be that game changing for a play. And thankfully today, ABS worked in favor of the Red Sox. It did work for the Reds though with Justin Slayton. They did challenge a call and ended up being ball 4, and that's where it got a little interesting in that 7th inning too. But to Slayton's credit, he got out of the jam, and there was nothing to look back on from that. But in case for Roman Anthony, that's when you saw Trevor Story get the big hit and keep on giving us, more of a cushion. So I'm all for it. I just don't want it to be one of those little ticky-tack kind of things, because if it gets to that point, then it gets stupid.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I still have mixed emotions on the entire concept of it, because again, when you get a game like today that benefited you, it's all marshmallows and whipped cream, right? But when there's going to be a game that could be on the line and you get a call against you and maybe it's a bases loaded walk or something like that, we're going to all be pissed at that point. So it's tough. I like the human element. I do. It's also, there's a lot of people that are going to say, yeah, but you want to make sure that you get the right call too. So it's tough. There's going to be pros and cons. There's going to be people on both sides of that fence. John, your thoughts on ABS in today's game and how it impacted?
I think it should have been here 10 years ago. They've been testing it in the minor leagues and for, I think, about the past 8 years. And, umpires typically get, I think the numbers around 96% of the calls right every single game, especially at the major league level. But giving the players just the power to change something that they know is wrong, whether you're the pitcher, catcher, hitter. I think it's just makes baseball itself a better game. We could all remember 2021 in the ALCS against the Astros. I think it was Nick Pivetta on the mound. It was either him or Nate Eovaldi. Pressure situation late in the game. Runners in scoring position. Whoever was pitching throws a nasty curveball, hits the top of the zone. Umpire calls it a ball. All the momentum after that, straight out the window. Red Sox have no life for the rest of the series, and they get sent home in 6 games to the Astros. We have ABS back then. That's strike 3. You get out of the inning. It's just a momentum shifting element that's now in the sport. And, I can't imagine how you can complain about it. Obviously, it worked in our favor today. Maybe on Saturday it'll work against us. But one thing I'm not going to do is complain about it because, as much as it could benefit you, it could hurt you. But as long as the call's right, that's really all that matters to me.
Thayer, your thoughts on ABS and how it impacted today's game?
I like it. I think it's important to have. I like the way they've set it up. It's not an unlimited amount. Each team gets 2 challenges. You go from there. You saw how they were working it today. In some cases, they're holding off on them. I've watched a number of games today, and there were sort of situations where teams have kept them at the end, and they're just throw out the flyer. Hey, let me see if I get lucky. And one other piece I want to talk to this, like, the numbers that we're throwing out from John, your standpoint, the umpires are exceptional. They're hitting it 96% for the most part. Every once in a while, guys have a bad day and they miss some things, and that happens. And I think we need to keep that part of the game. But at the same time, and this is interesting, we're throwing around 53% of the calls were overturned. That, Nick, you said it, like when these guys are 100% sure they're right. All these calls, like every ABS system, is the guy is certain that they're right, and they're only right 53% of the time. So it's not a huge number of calls really getting overturned. And if they are, and it's crazy, you look at it, you're talking like millimeters. A ball is really, the outside of the strike zone, but it just a stitch crosses that, it's a strike. So I think it's important to have it, because it would, and it's going to happen to us. It's going to come down to, we missed a call. Like, we didn't, how to say this, a call kind of went against us that should not have gone against us. We're like, in the moment we got lucky, but we're not. I think it's important when a guy walks somebody or strikes them out in those situations that it's called correctly, and we move on from there. And like John said, it's going to get us here eventually, but that's all right.
Yeah. I think another thing to look forward to, or at least from a discussion standpoint, I'm sure we're going to see statistics being made on how players, like percentages of players that actually challenge a call and what their percentages are of success. They already made reference how the Red Sox, had quite a number of significant positive challenges in spring training. So I think these are some more stats to add to the already, millions of stats that we already have for baseball now. But it will be interesting because, maybe you're going to start seeing guys like Roman Anthony who, when those are challenged, Lou Merloni brought this up on the broadcast today. Let me just kind of backtrack a little bit. He was saying that, and it's true, in spring training, there was really a lot of recklessness being used with the challenge system because I think a lot of people just wanted to try to really get it into practice. But now that we're in the regular season, I think you're going to see a lot of that pulled back into more important situations. Like I was mentioning before, bases loaded, strike three calls and stuff like that. Whether they're close or not, you might see that challenge anyway. But I think you're going to find that certain players are probably going to have a little bit more of the green light if they're known to be really good with knowing the strike zone, like Roman Anthony, like maybe Contreras. Maybe they're going to have a little bit more of a green light in those situations than, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa as an example. So just something to kind of keep an eye on as we move forward, throughout this season. Switching gears just a little bit, I want to talk quickly, 30 seconds or so. Carlos Narvaez's bunt. The Red Sox played small ball today, guys. It was really interesting to see. It's not something that we've seen a lot of in the past, even with Cora, being, a guy that you would think would be a prototypical small ball type manager. We don't see a lot of that, over the course of the last 8 or 9 years. I enjoyed it. I like the idea of it. Nick, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on, Narvaez's bunt? You couldn't get any better than what he pulled off.
I hope Connor Wong was watching. I have to go there. That's just the person I am. I have to. I hope he was watching. I hope he was taking notes. I hope he was doing all those things, because that's all I can probably count on for whenever Connor Wong plays to do. I credit Carlos Narvaez for getting the job done and working with probably staff to make sure that he can get the job done and get the bunt down. It was a tremendous situational small ball approach that we have hardly ever seen. Probably one of my biggest highlights of the game, in all fairness. It was because of the execution. The execution was flawless, and it led to us scoring the run, thanks in part to Ceddanne Rafaela's big hit. So job well done. The little things matter, guys. It's when your head's up. It's when you can execute whatever call is being called from the dugout and successfully achieving it. I can't tell you how many times this team has failed, under Cora particularly, to do those little things right. And that really opened my eyes this afternoon. Great job, Carlos Nevarez. I know you can hit the ball 100%, but it was great that you could just get the job done and be a team player. Loved it. Sign me up for it.
Thayer, quickly 30 seconds on Narvaez and the small ball aspect.
When you have nobody predicted to hit 20 home runs, you better have a bunch of guys that can bunt the ball 20 times. And it was beautiful, and that's the way they're going to have to play. We talked about it. Pitching and defense and move runners and be aggressive and put pressure on people, and nothing puts pressure on a team more than a bunt because they don't see them enough, and they don't, it's a very difficult situation to do in baseball when you don't have a lot of experience defending against those sort of things. So I say keep it up, especially with guys that are not consistent hitters, and, productive outs rule the world.
John, your thoughts on the Narvaez?
Yeah, I mean, after the game, reporters asked Cora if that was a play call or if Narvaez did it on his own. Cora didn't answer that question. He said he didn't want to give away strategy. So I'd assume that probably means that he gave a signal for Narvaez to put that down. But, giving the sign, we saw it last year. We saw them try to bunt maybe, once every other game, when we'd be in that 1-run game in the 7th inning and on. And the difference is last year you'd have guys like David Hamilton, runners on first and second with 1 out. Your job's to move the runners over. And we'd see him go up there trying to bunt for a hit, miss it 2 times, and then strike out or hit into a double play. And, where I give Carlos Narvaez credit for is he just executed. It's really simple. You're up there for a sacrifice play, get the ball down. You don't have to bust your ass down the line. Get the ball to where the fielders have to make a play and have to get you out at first base. And he did just exactly that. And again, it's one thing just getting it down, getting the play done, but also what happens afterwards. And Ceddanne Rafaela worked a hell of an at bat. I think it was 6 pitches or so. He got to 2 strikes pretty early. He was down in the count. He fought his way, found a mistake pitch, drove the ball right back up the middle. So, I just couldn't be happier just seeing small ball executed and then understanding that it's not this time to hit a home run. It's not the time to try to jack the baseball and just get the ball in play, runner on third, less than 2 outs. It's, flawless execution from the Red Sox.
Yeah, switching over a little bit to comments now.
I have one comment before you go.
Sure.
This. What was my statement before Ceddanne Rafaela came up to hit that big hit? What did I say? Go ahead, guys.
You had to go to the bathroom?
No, that was not it. You don't remember what I said? John knows. He's laughing. Go ahead, John. Make fun of me.
I'm pulling it up.
Bring me up. Bring it on. What was I asking for? Did I want Rafaela to hit in that situation? No, I did not.
No.
Who did I ask for?
Yoshida.
Buddy. I did.
Yeah.
I did. And Ceddanne Rafaela ended up coming in. So I should fire myself. So good night.
Betty has a comment. Betty has a comment. She says, in my opinion, Cora will eventually put Mayer in. He wants to make him earn it, not just give it to him as the highest first-round draft pick. And IKF scares her to death defending. I'm not an IKF fan. I don't even know why he's here.
$6 million.
It's crazy. And Betty also says, even if Mayer's not good against lefties, IKF not a great bat, so make him choice for Mayer anytime. He's got to play. There's no bottom. We talked about that before. It's the bottom line. Mark says, I agree, John. Marcelo's not going to get a feel for the big leagues without starting. He has to start. I mean, if you didn't trade him, play him. And that's the bottom line. And last comment from Mark: umpires have to hate or love it, whether they're pissed they got called out for being wrong or they get a chip on their shoulder when they're right. Look, you know what? Tough tarts. If you're an umpire, I don't care if you've got 30 years like Mark Wegner, or you got, CB Buckner, or you got someone that's just brand new. It is what it is. It's the new rules. And you know what? Do better, I guess, right? If you're an umpire and you're getting too many calls against you, I mean, do better. That's the bottom line on that. Just want to kind of forecast tomorrow. We're not on, but Saturday we will be after game 2. Game 2 for the Red Sox obviously will be again against Cincinnati, and this is going to be Sonny Gray against Brady Singer. We talked a little bit about yesterday, but just to wrap up, Thayer, I'll start with you. Any changes to what you think we're going to see for game 2 and your prediction for game 2?
No, I still think the Reds will come out with something tomorrow. I think they'll or not on Saturday. I think they'll get their win. It'll probably be close. I don't think that Gray will be able to hold off their offense quite like Crochet did. And I'm happy that we won today. It was a nice win, but the offense has still got to get a little bit more done. And I think the Reds are capable of exploding a little bit in that ballpark, especially if it's a warm day.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I predicted the Red Sox were going to sweep the series. I still think that's true. Sonny Gray has to be Sonny Gray. His last start of the spring, he had those 9 strikeouts. I don't care to see that. If he gets it, great, but keep the ball in the strike zone, have that command that he's had for his entire career. Weak contact, keep the ball on the ground. And then the Red Sox have historically hit really well against Brady Singer. So I just hope that they start cashing in a little bit earlier than the 7th inning. They left 6 guys, I think it was, on base in the first 5 innings of the game. They had guys in scoring position 3 of the first 5 innings. Nothing happened. So hopefully the bats just get going a little bit early, and hopefully we see somebody pop a homer.
Nick, your prediction for game 2.
What do you think, JJ? What do you think? You think the Red Sox are going to win? Do you think so? I do. So I'm going to go with the Red Sox. And the biggest point here that I'm going to also emphasize is that Sonny Gray is coming back home to Cincinnati. So he wants to probably show his club, former club, what they gave up on. So I think there's a big game for Sonny Gray, a little redemption tour for him in a way. So I think he's going to put up actually a great start. And I said that last night. I think Sonny Gray is going to actually be somebody that we're going to enjoy in this rotation. I think the biggest thing we need to watch for Saturday is, now that Slayton, Whitlock, and Chapman through, who are the Red Sox going to go to next in the depth chart here in the bullpen? I think we'll probably see some Weissert action probably on Saturday. It's good that they have a day off, because it probably means 2 out of those 3 guys would be able to throw. I don't think that I'd probably say maybe Whitlock won't throw Saturday, and let's say it's Slayton and Chapman. So I think we should be pretty covered. Then you have to watch for Sunday to see if it's another one of those close situations. What do they do? So that's, I think, the biggest thing to look at right now, is to also see who we can also trust in this bullpen. If you can't have Slayton, Whitlock, and Chapman throw every day. So we need to see here early on what this bullpen's going to be like, and see if they're battle tested.
Well, the other thing too is keeping them to a minimum of 1 inning stints. I mean, obviously you're going to have the games where you're behind, and I think those are the times that you'll see guys like Weissert, I think, pitching from behind or tied. And then, of course, when there's blowouts, especially if the Red Sox are up, that might be an opportunity too, where you want to save Slayton, Whitlock, and of course Chapman. That being said, we're going to try to introduce a new little perk here to our show, which is going to be the star of the game. And how this is going to work is on the days that we're having a show, when I post the Twitter tweet, what people can do is they can actually, chime in on who they think the star of the game is going to be for that game that night. And what we're going to do is whoever gets it right, we'll tally that up. And then at the end of the season, whoever has the most star wins will get some sort of perk or prize from us. So it's a great opportunity for people to stay engaged with us, and follow the show and so forth. So that being said, obviously today's first star of the game is Garrett Crochet, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts in that 3-0 victory. So Saturday will be our next show. When I post that up, go ahead and choose, pre-choose your anticipated star of the game. And then, like I said, we'll keep a tally of that all the way to the end of the season. And then we'll come up with some kind of great prize for somebody. Anybody else, anything else to mention, or otherwise we'll wrap it up?
Just real quick. I know with Skeens and the way he pitched today, really made me thankful that Crochet decided not to go to the WBC. And I'm sure it didn't really have a whole lot to do with it, but it might have had a little something to do with it.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's just surprising, right? That was arguably one of his worst starts in his career, I think.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers.
No arguing about it. It was his worst.
So he'll be fine. But, the bottom line is that it does make that argument about, not having your pitchers in the WBC. And look at Ranger Suarez, look at Bayo. You're a little bit behind. Thank God we've got the depth, and it's probably one of the reasons why Early is here. So that being said, my name is Jim, and thank everybody for being on. Nick, John, and Thayer, everybody
And
that
JJ.
commented, and JJ, and everybody that's watching the show. We will see you on Saturday night. We'll see you on Saturday night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Friends.
Take care. Take care, everybody.
Say bye, friends.